Right, welcome back if you've been following the progress on this. We're now on part 5 of changing the timing chain on this Mk5 R32. So as you can see, we've got our sort of DIY engine hoist in place just to hold this up while we do remove the gearbox. So we've got some engine chains here, these are rated for like 900 kilograms, so they'll be totally overkill, and they've got some adjustment on there which will be quite nice. And then we've got this steel cable ratchet that will just enable us to do the lifting and to take the slack up on the cable. And then we've got a 3¼ ton shackle here going through a 3 ton strap as well, and that's wrapped around this 6x3 beam that spans across the garage, and it's just bolted in at either end. And then what I'll probably actually look at doing as well is just to probably beef up the brackets a little bit, is maybe just make some additional brackets out some 5mm steel, and then we'll put them up under each end of the beam as well, just to give ourselves a bit of peace of mind. Okay, we're moving on to removing the drive shaft now. So we've got a hub bolt here, or hub nut, and on the other side of the drive shaft we've got multiple spline drives all the way around, which we've got to remove, and then we can move that out of the cup. So what I think we're going to do first is we're actually going to look at busting this loose and getting this out. Now I thought this was a 26mm, and I've got a 26mm impact socket here, but it's definitely not the correct size. And here I've got 27mm, but just an ordinary socket, so that seems to fit on. So we're going to give it a go with that. I think actually these are superseded anyway. From what I read, I think it changed to a 24mm, but it's like a multi-point socket, not like a traditional sort of hex socket. But we'll give it a go with this and see if we can get it loose. So I'm trying to get you as good a view as possible in there, so you can see all this little spline shaft bolts going around the drive shaft. And I think what we'll do is we're going to use this spline drive on a 5-inch extension and try and use the impact gun if we can to remove them. I think that's going to be the easiest way for us. There we go, that's one removed. So what it looks like we've got is we've got 3 sets of pairs like this, each held by a little bracket together. So we'll get the rest of those taken out. Right, something I've found out that's definitely going to help people is some of the bolts are really difficult to get to. So what you can actually do is just, now I've got both front wheels off, just spin the drive shaft around, grab the disc and turn the drive shaft, and that makes it a lot easier to get to this position here. It's probably the easiest location. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of other jobs that we need to do while we're under here. So we're going to set this drain plug out and drain the gearbox oil. It's going to make the gearbox a bit lighter to deal with when we do have to pull it out. And then I've been looking at removing the drive shafts, and I don't have enough play to get them out as they are, but I do know that you need to drop this whole sort of subframe assembly away from the car with the steering rack in order to access the sort of rear part, some of the rear bits of the gearbox. So what we're going to do, I think, is apparently you can lower it down the jack. We'll probably put some wood or bricks or something under there to support it on, but I think it's just 4 big bolts, so I think there's one here, one at the back there, and obviously 2 the other side, and then we should be able to also this mount here, which is just to stop the forward backwards movement of the engine. We'll remove this bracket for that, and then we should in theory be able to lower this subframe down, and then I'm hoping that will enable us to get enough play to get the drive shafts out as well. We'll get this side loose as well first before we do that. But yeah, while we're under here, I think what we'll do is we've got the gearbox alter drain, like I say. There's also, if you can really see it, but I will show you, there's a little device up here which I don't actually know what it's doing, but it seems to be sort of measuring the angle of the steering arms, so we'll get that disconnected as well. Right, okay, let's get the oil draining anyway. So it's just a 10mm hex head. You've got your drain hole here and your fill holes just up here, just out of sight. So what we'll do while we're just waiting for this to drain is we'll remove this bracket here for this dog bone mount that stops the engine from moving forward and backwards, and it's just a couple of 16mm bolts. So yeah, longer, pretty obvious, but longer bolt at the back and shorter bolt at the front. Yeah, this is the odd contraption I was talking about before. I'm just worried about breaking this. It's connected to the lower arm, and if we're obviously dropping this hole, the subframe's going to separate here from the body, so I'm worried about breaking this if we do that. So I think we're going to have to get this removed. So just a 10mm, it's just a little 10mm nut on the bottom of that, but we'll pop that back on there, and then we've got that loose. Then this can move around and it's not going to cause any problems then, I don't think. Right, I hope this works out. So I'm just going to show you the general idea here. So in order to lower this subframe that's got the lower arms and bits attached to it, and hopefully I'm hoping that will give us enough room to clear the drive shafts out without disconnecting anything else, but we'll see how we get on. But you definitely have to drop this anyway to get the gearbox out. There's just 4 bolts here, 4 18mm bolts, one on each sort of corner of it that attach it to the body, and it should lower away from the frame of the car. So let's start by removing these. While we speed this section of the video up, you can see that I'm removing 2 here, and obviously it's a mirror on the other side, and then the other 2 that I haven't removed that will actually allow it to lower down will crop up just slightly later in the video, but I just wanted to make you aware that there's actually 6, not 4. So I'm really struggling with getting this subframe dropped away from the car, and I'm wondering if it's not just that the fact that it's hanging on the shocks at this point and it just can't lower itself any further. So what I'm going to try and do is actually just take these 2 nuts off on each side here, and we'll try and see if that allows it to drop away from the shocks. And to be honest, to get the drive shaft out, it is going to make our lives easier anyway. So
The only other thing I can see is these very rear subframe bolts here. I mean, that's the only thing I can think that would still be holding it to the car. That definitely seemed to drop then.
So I just want to explain a little bit about what I'm doing here. So what I thought is that perhaps removing the drop link from the anti-roll bar and also releasing the shock absorber from the hub would allow me to lower the subframe a little bit further down than I already could do. Now this turned out not to be the case, so I don't think it's entirely necessary to remove these drop links from the anti-roll bar. However, I do think it's necessary to remove the shock absorber from the hub to enable you to get the drive shaft out a lot easier.
Yeah, like that. I'll hold back with that. Fiddly. Okay, so you can see that I've taken the hub bolts out from here, from there, either side, and I've also taken out from here the dog bone gearbox mount. It's just one bolt there that you just remove down. It's pretty tough. I have to use the breaker bar on that, and I'm hoping now that that's enough to allow us to lower the subframe a bit more. We'll see.
So what I'm trying to do here is just to remove the hub from the bottom of the shock. So you can see I've already removed the bolt there that pinches the two halves together. I'm just going to hammer a wedge up in the gap there, and then we'll use a drift just to try and tap this off the bottom. It does take a lot of persuasion, so you just have to be patient, but it will eventually come loose.
Faff. There's one drive shaft out. Passenger side drive shaft out.
So this is a really quick recap just so you can see where we are with things, because I appreciate the video was probably a little bit disjointed. There's the cup on the side of the transfer case on the rear of the gearbox, and that's where the drive shaft used to go. And then you can see there the separation between the subframe and the body, and I'm hoping that will give us enough room to now drop the gearbox out. And if we have a look under the vehicle as well, I've just got the subframe supported on these wooden blocks here. So yeah, one thing I just want to bring up really, I guess, is that the guide that I'm using said that you need to remove the 4 bolts that hold the steering rack to the subframe, but at this stage I really don't see why that's necessary, because the steering rack seems to drop with the subframe itself. So yeah, I'm not really sure there. Perhaps it'll become apparent as we progress.